Hey boys and girls, we're going to talk about the start-stop station here. 3-wire start-stop. Some of them have 4 wires. This one has a common point right in the middle. But we're going to talk about these 3 different terminals here real quick. So on this start-stop station, we have 3 terminals, 1, 2, and 3 right here that are connected to this start-stop. So what we got to do is you got to ohm them out. And we're going to try to identify those 3 terminals. And those 3 terminals are going to be right here, and right here. And so these are momentary buttons, so they're drawn properly. So this one is normally open, and it's going to momentarily close. They're spring-loaded switches. They'll just momentarily switch positions, okay? So this one's normally open, momentarily closes. This one's normally closed, momentary open, okay? So this is going to be our start button. Once this is pushed, it'll complete the circuit and energize our starter box, bring on our load. And then this is going to be our stop button. It's what's going to momentarily open and kill that circuit. And so let's go through and ohm this out real quick and find our 3 terminals. And so I've got my chart already laid out here. Normal, we're going to write our readings in here. And then once I got the buttons pushed, we got to go here. And I'll show you why we got to do that. But let's just ohm it out. Let's see here. Yep. So let's go 1 to 2, nothing. 1 to 3, nothing. Infinite. 2 to 3, we got continuity. So on 2 to 3, I had continuity. 2 to 3 had 0 ohms of resistance. Everything else was infinite. Now this is going to be the tricky part. I'm going to have to try to push I'm going to push both buttons. So I'm going to hold this switch closed, and I'm going to hold this switch open, and I'm going to ohm it out again. I'm going to do the exact same thing again. I'm probably going to block the view a little bit, I'm sorry. But I'm going to push both buttons. And then let's do it again. Nothing. Alright, 1 to 3. You have to take my word for it. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. So now, 1 to 3, I have continuity. Everything else was infinite. And so looking at that, let's go back to our normal position here real quick. We had continuity from 2 to 3. And so what that tells me is that we were right here. We were from this common point to the stop button, because that's normally closed. We're reading continuity. But we don't know which one's which. One of these is 2, and one of these is 3. That's all we really know, okay, at that point. But once we push the buttons in, and now this one's closed, and this one's open, we're going to be able to find this right here. And it is between 1 and 3, right here. When the button is pushed, I had continuity from terminals 1 to 3, had 0 ohms, I had continuity. So now, same thing. I know this is either 1 or 3, and this is either 1 or 3. And if you looky there, we already had a 3, so guess what? That's going to be 3. 3 is common. This is going to be 2, so this is stop. And then start is going to be number 1. And so now when we go to wire this thing up, all we got to do, let's just turn this into a straight line. This will be easy enough. Here's one leg of power. I'm just going to bring power into start, so terminal 1. And then I'm basically going to leave on 2. And I'm going to go hit, it's feeding a starter box, and so we're going to go ahead and draw the overload contacts in there. And then there's my starter box coil. We'll just call it starter box 1. Okay, this is part 1 of this. So now, whenever we push the start button, it's going to connect basically from 1 to 3, right? That's going to momentarily close, and it's going to energize this starter box coil. But since it's a momentary switch, when we push that, it's just going to start or energize, de-energize, energize, de-energize. And so we're going to put a lock-in around this. So we want to lock in starter box coil 1. So all we're going to do is take some of its own auxiliaries and put them between 1 and 3. And we'll call them starter box auxiliaries. Simple lock-in circuit, it's going to latch in. So now whenever you come up and you push that start button and it momentarily closes right here, when it's closed right there, it's going to energize this coil, the starter box coil. When that starter box coil energizes, it's going to close this contact, and you let up on the button, and we're locked in right here from 1 to 3, from start to common. We've got this lock-in, this latch-in circuit that's going to keep that energized until someone comes along and pushes the stop button. When you open that, it's going to momentarily de-energize the coil. So when you momentarily de-energize it, it's going to switch its contacts back to a normal position, and now it's sitting there dead, de-energized. Let's wire this thing up. Be right back. Alright, I threw some wires on this thing, but I haven't finished my lock-in circuit yet. There's still nothing, there's still no lock-in between 1 and 3. Just to tell you guys again about these momentary switches. So right now, if I push the start button, it just momentarily starts, right? It's just momentarily closing. And if I were to hold that in and then hit the stop button, it just momentarily kills it. Alright, so let's do our lock-in now real quick. Lock-in needs to be between 1 and 3, and we're going to use a set of auxiliaries. This particular starter box has a set of auxiliaries right here. If you don't have auxiliaries, you could always, this is a 3-pole starter box. I'm only using two poles. You could always just use that third leg or that third pole through their third set of contacts. They're obviously rated for the job. I think these are rated for like 40 or 50 amps. Auxiliaries are pilot duty. I think these are rated for about 10 amps, but let's go ahead and we're going to take L1. I'm sorry. We're going to go either way. I'm just trying to do it like the drawing. We're going to come off at number 1, hit our auxiliary, normally open, and then come back into 3. So let's hop off at 1. Let's hit that auxiliary on the side right there. And let's complete our lock-in. This goes back to 3. So now it'll lock itself in until someone comes up and pushes the stop button. Okay? One more thing this job specifies is that if the start button were to fail close, like short closed, the stop button still has to be able to interrupt it and kill it. So let's make sure that it does that. I'm going to hold the start button down and then hit the stop button. The stop button should momentarily kill it. And it does. But here's what you'll see quite a bit. What I personally see on this job quite a bit is that people will get 2 and 3 flip-flopped, and it'll still work. Your start and your stop will still be in series with each other. All that will still work, but your lock-in ends up being between 1 and 2, something like that. And so now, if this button is held closed, this button's not going to do anything because we're going to be shunting it. It's going to be coming right down here through the lock-in circuit as soon as you bump that, okay? All right, guys, have a good one.